Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be flipping through the pages of my recent sketchbook and kind of talking about each one of the drawings and just going through what I'm working on right now. So anyway, let's get to it. So on this first page, we have some Bettie Page sketches, which I did with a brush pen, which I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between these Pentel brush pens and then this pocket brush pen. This one's a really fine tip one, which I like a lot. And this one right here, I like a lot, but sometimes the flow is kind of hard to control. So this one's a little bit harder to use. And with these sketches, I did the shadows with gray Copic markers. In 4 and in 2 is what I used on these. And I like the way they look. I like these sketches. They don't take very long, but I feel like you can work on your, figure drawing, stuff like that. I did these in preparation to do this cover, which you guys probably saw in my comic book cover video I did. So that is this page. This is some photos. My wife and I used to do a lot of outfit photos for her page, so I just grabbed a couple and just wanted to do some rough kind of fashion photos. Again, brush pens and gray Copics for these. Try to go back to figure drawing and drawing from life, especially now focusing on this sketchbook, traditional drawing, pencil, ink pen, stuff like that, versus digital art that I was doing before. I want to go back and forth between life drawing, figure drawing, drawing from imagination. I'm trying to be more conscious of referencing things to learn, when I'm doing something wrong, to really focus on doing it the right way. But then just observing. So drawings like this are just kind of observing. I feel like I need to do more drawings like this though for fashion sense. Like it helps you draw more unique characters when you can think of characters, the outfits they might wear. So this is a creature concept illustration, like a weird monster thing. I really like this one. I referenced like some frogs, some deep sea animals, and kind of all mashed them all together, and then filled in how they're connected with my imagination. And I feel like that's a really good way to do concept art, is use your drawing knowledge to piece things together in a way that makes sense. And I feel like this was a really successful kind of concept, quick pen and ink concept. I liked it a lot, and it helped me in the future monster drawings you'll see coming up. This is kind of another creature. I referenced like kind of some monkeys, again, filling in the blanks with drawing from imagination. I got a little heavier with the inks on this one, which I like the contrast that I got with this drawing versus this sketch. It's much more like a mid-tone sketch, as where this one, you can see that contrast. You can see how much of it, more of an impact this illustration has on you than the previous one. And this is just a really good dynamic pose. Sometimes you just nail a pose, and I feel like this one has a ton of movement. He's coming at you, and I like the way you can just see the movement in this. Like his feet aren't touching the ground. He's kind of just planting with that forearm and really lunging towards you. Here's some more reference illustrations, pen and ink. Less contrast in this one, more detail oriented with that little, this little brush pen. You can definitely see the finer line quality when I use this versus the other brush pens. Like on this guy, you can kind of see, because I definitely used the thicker brush pen on areas of him. When I say the thicker one, I mean this one. I want to show you guys the difference in the tips. And you can really see the difference in like this guy's shoulder. This one stays a lot more consistent when you're doing real fine lines. And this one, it's harder to stay consistent. Like you can get a fine line with this one, but then it's really gonna jump out and get bold real quick if you're not careful. So that's kind of the risk of this one, but I do feel like this one really gives you that, it's just that quality of, like that natural quality, something about it. I like it. I just need to get better at using it. And also bigger drawings would help as well. Drawing small characters like this is definitely harder to get that detail. And doing faces, I definitely recommend maybe not using this one so much, because it's really easy to accidentally blot in a big old black spot on an eye or something. And these drawings are all a photo reference. This was a sketch, just a quick sketch for this cover that I did, which was also in that video. So I kind of sketched it out before I drew it. You guys saw this one in the redraw video that I did, where I drew one of my daughter's drawings of kind of this mermaid creature. So this, I like the quality of this one, but I want to push the blacks a little bit more going forward, and you'll see that on the drawings coming up. With the colors on this one, it was Copic markers. Here's a bunch of facial references real quick. Just looked at some different faces, and so these two drawings are from my imagination. So I kind of remembered, you know, what I was doing on these and just drew kind of from my face. And I wanted to just try and, like, one thing, like with the different mouths, like how the mouths look, it's so easy to get in a routine where you're just like, oh, I like the way this mouth looks. So you just draw it that way every time. Doing this, and even drawing this mouth, maybe this one in particular, like 10 times, just to add it to, you know, your catalog of images that you know how to draw. And this one's, it's important too to draw weird faces, because faces like this have a lot of character. And I think having that character, that extreme, sometimes really makes people stop and take notice. These were done with that thicker brush pen. So this was a doodle page. So sometimes I just want to mess around with the pen, kind of get more comfortable with the way the ink flows out of it, stuff like that. So I won't even think about what I'm drawing. I'll just focus on the pen and what it's doing. And so that's kind of what I did on this page. So you guys saw this one in the video where I inked this one, Copic markers, and this was for the Proko challenge, which you know, as far as winning that contest or anything like that, like I just was having a ton of fun, and it fit perfectly with what I was kind of working on at the time. So that's where all these drawings, that's why I did so many of them, is because I was just having so much fun with it. So yeah, so that's this one, kind of a cool monster concept. And this is actually the second one I did. I just had an empty page, so I bounced back in the sketchbook. This was the first one, which originally I just did this one with black and white, or grayscale. So it was all gray, and I added Copic marker colors over the top of it, which it actually worked really well. One thing I will say on this one, I think I said it in that previous video where I colored this one, is when I did use grays, I went over the top of the grays with a blue, like a light blue, because I feel like it just makes things, when things are gray or black, I like to go over them with a color. It just gives it a little bit more life. It's not so drab and dead. This is another monster concept I did. There was a lot of things I was really happy with on this one. The kind of plasticky leather, this was just kind of on the fly, and I'm like, I think I can figure that out. One thing I do is for my real high points, the real bright shines that are in the plastic, that are where the light is directly hitting it, I leave those pure white. And then stuff on the underside, you still want that kind of definition, and it's like reflected light. So I'll take a blue and I'll go over those, and you can kind of see that effect that it gives. It really makes that like plasticky, leathery look, that shine, really pop. The only thing I didn't really like on this one is her weight is she's kind of leaning, and I would like to have had maybe this swoop around forward so it gave a little bit of a balance to her body. And that's just, I don't know if that's that big of a deal. Just something I'm noticing like when I look at it. But there's definitely a lot of things I liked on this one. Yeah, so that one is another Proko challenge drawing. I did a lot. This was kind of a doodle page, just messing around with these markers, which are Prismacolor, which an interesting thing on these is sometimes, and I don't know why, I'll have to look it up. I can't answer this. What a great YouTuber I am, right? Is sometimes these markers have, gosh, if I can get the lid off, have a tip like this on the fat end or a tip like this. And I definitely prefer this tip. This is more like a brush pen tip, and it's awesome and it's soft. But a lot of them have this like weird squared edge tip, which I don't like. So if I buy these again, I'm gonna have to figure out which ones have this tip and which one have that squared tip. I got these in a set for Christmas, and I definitely want to figure out that because they're not bad pens. But speaking of pens, I want to talk about these too. I got these super cheap Master's Touch at Hobby Lobby. And so this has more like a Copic marker tip. And I use these on a drawing coming up. And I really like these markers, but the big key on these markers, these I got 50% off. So they were $3 each for all of them at Hobby Lobby. And that's cheap, especially with Copics being like $8 a piece. And they dry out so quick. Markers are expensive, man, but they work pretty good. I'll show you that. I used them on this drawing. So I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but as for what I'm using them for, those are $8 markers, $8 a piece markers, and those are $3 a piece. So that's, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth the price jump there. And I'm sure you can't always get these 50% off, but it's definitely worth a look. I definitely like the way they, I could blend them and stuff like that. So they were pretty sweet. So this is another Proko challenge, which his challenge was to draw monsters. Again, I talked about that in the coloring video that I did. But yeah, this drawing for the most part, I liked. Was an interesting, I really liked this. So sometimes when you're doing a drawing, you just discover something. And I liked how I did this like gear system up here. Because I drew it a few different times and I wanted it to look like kind of like where the chains might wrap around it or something like that when he pulls the chains in. You can kind of see chains coming down through here. And I really liked that. And a lot of times, like with smiles or anything, you draw things the same way every time and you just get used to it. This I felt like it's kind of a new discovery for me in how I might do shoulders and gear systems for mechanical things in the future. So here's some more figure sketches. I was drawing monsters a lot. Thought, you know what? Because we all draw things we like. I like pretty women. So when I do figure drawing, I like to draw pretty women. I'll just pick up random pictures, or even I'll go to the used to be YouTube channels where they did figure drawing and stuff like that, and I'll draw figures and just sketch random figures on a page. And again, this is just observing poses, observing cloth, just sketching to maybe observe new things, new ways to do things, and to get better at sketching. Like, just look at something and sketch. It's so much easier than drawing from your imagination. And I think one fault of mine for a long time is I depend too much on drawing from imagination because that's what I like to do. But drawing from reference is really how you grow as an artist. So that's it for this sketchbook update. I hope you guys liked it. I've got, I've been doing a lot of drawing lately, and yeah, it's just, it's going great right now. The motivation is high. So I've got a bunch of ideas for videos coming up, but it's just a matter of, having the time. Sometimes I just want to actually just draw, watch me draw videos, and maybe draw a few of these different like creatures and stuff like that from scratch, like I've been doing. So Anyway, if you guys are coming to my channel for the first time, remember to subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys soon.